But I mean, I was arrested in Iran for a week a long time ago, and roughly the same time, an Iranian-Canadian photographer was arrested, and she was raped and beaten to death. Jesus. So the people that are citizens of these countries, they're really bearing the brunt. And again, that's why I'm uncomfortable if people call me brave, because I get to come home.
Right.
With these guys, you know, they can get to them and they can get to their families very easily, and that takes a whole other level of bravery.
The woman who's raped and beaten to death, what was she involved with? What happened?
She was a photographer.
She was just taking pictures of...
Yeah. And the usual thing with, I mean, certainly in Iran, but this is common all over the place, if you're a dual citizen working as a journalist in, for example, Iran, they'll accuse you of being a spy. I was accused of being a spy. They tried to get me to confess to being a spy. That's a very normal assumption out there.
And how long were you in jail for?
Just 7 or 8 days.
What was that like?
Actually, not too bad. I mean, psychologically it was bad because they were threatening torture and execution. Physically it wasn't too bad. I was fed. I had a bed. I was roughed up a bit. I wasn't beaten. But I did think it could last months and months and months. And I did think I could go to Evin prison. They actually put me in a car and drove me to what they said was Evin prison once, and then just took me somewhere else.
Evin prison?
Evin prison is where people have been tortured and executed.
So they just drove you there to scare you?
Drove me around for a few hours to scare me and then took me to another place, yeah.
What were they trying to get you to confess to?
To being a spy. And they said, at one point they said, do you honestly expect us to believe you travel the world collecting all this information and you don't share it with your government? I said, yeah, that's exactly how it works. And they thought I was insulting their intelligence by saying that.
What were you over there covering?
I did a series, one of the first series I did was called Holidays in the Axis of Evil. So I spent my first 4 years as a journalist undercover, wearing a secret camera. And luckily I appeared on a couple of docs with a guy who was not very good. And so I looked genuine next to him. So the controller of BBC Two said, give this guy a series. And I was racking my brains trying to think, wanted to be a foreign correspondent, wanted to cover conflict. Then George Bush made the Axis of Evil speech. And John Bolton added 3 countries to the list. So it was Iraq, Syria, Cuba, North Korea, Libya, Cuba were the 6 evil countries. So we went to all 6 countries. Me and one cameraman, handheld camera. Shane actually saw it, and that's when he first reached out, and I started talking to Vice about eventually joining them. But kind of documentaries from the streets up. So we were just trying to say, you know, despite all the rhetoric about Iran, this is what the people are actually like. And it was kind of youth-led. We interviewed a bunch of students who were involved in some famous protests in 1999 where the police came in and smashed the dormitories and burnt them down and beat them. And I think because we interviewed them, we were then tracked and arrested.
Oh. So how'd you get free?
How'd you get free? I didn't know at the time, but if 2 countries have diplomatic relations, it's only a big deal after a week. So on the night of the 7th day or the 8th day, they let me go.
Oh.
Yeah. But I had no idea at the time. I thought this could go on months and months and months.
Now, when you were over there in Iran, what is their perception of the United States when you're talking to the young people over there?
Oh, love the United States.
Really?
Music, culture, sports, everything. And are extremely well educated about the United States. American foreign policy is a completely different discussion. But, I mean, one of the things we tried to cover was the Friday rally at Tehran University where you see everyone chanting death to America, death to Israel. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to cover it because they bus in old men from the countryside who sit there going, oh, yeah, death to America, death to Israel.
Really?
It's not something to be taken seriously.
So it's just some propaganda staged event?
Yeah.